Admiral Kethvar clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among the Zephyrian High Command. The holographic display before him showed the approaching human fleet, a motley collection of vessels that looked more like industrial equipment than proper warships. "These are the legendary Earth warriors," he chittered to his staff officers. Their ships appear to be constructed from scrap metal and good intentions. Fleet Commander Thuron, a towering Altarian with crystalline skin that reflected the bridge's amber lighting, nodded his massive head. "Intelligence reports suggest they've only been spacefaring for barely 3 centuries. Our youngest cadets have more combat experience than their entire species." The assembled alien officers shared what could only be described as condescending amusement. The galactic hegemony had dominated this sector for over 10,000 years. Their sleek, energy-efficient vessels incorporated technology that the humans couldn't even comprehend, let alone replicate. "Look at those primitive kinetic weapons," Kethvar observed, zooming in on the human dreadnought's weapon arrays. "Actual projectile launchers, how quaint. Our energy shields will absorb their pathetic metal slugs like raindrops on armor plating." What the aliens couldn't see from their sensor readings was the controlled chaos aboard the human flagship. "Yes, Indomitable." Captain Sarah Chen stood calmly at the center of her bridge, watching the alien formation with calculating eyes. Her crew moved with practiced efficiency around consoles that, while appearing crude to alien observers, represented something the hegemony had forgotten: the marriage of brutal effectiveness with ingenious improvisation. "Range-to-target weapons?" Chen asked quietly. 200,000 kilometers in closing, Captain. All railguns loaded with tungsten penetrators. Mac cannon charged and ready." The human fleet looked pathetic compared to the graceful alien vessels, angular, industrial, and scarred from countless modifications. But Chen knew something the aliens didn't. Humans had learned warfare in the most brutal school imaginable: Earth's oceans, where submarines stalked each other in the crushing depths, where every innovation was paid for in blood. "They're hailing us, Admiral," reported the Zephyrian communications officer. Kethvar's image appeared on the human bridge screens, his reptilian features radiating smug superiority. "Human vessels, you will surrender immediately and submit to hegemony authority. Your primitive technology poses no threat to our superior forces." Captain Chen smiled, a cold expression that would have chilled any human who knew her reputation. "Admiral, I appreciate the warning. Consider this our response." She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. "Fire." The Indomitable's magnetic accelerator cannon discharged with a sound like thunder contained in a steel drum. The tungsten slug, accelerated to 3% of light speed, crossed the distance between fleets in seconds. Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical display with amusement as the primitive projectile approached his flagship. His energy shields flared to life, designed to dissipate the coherent energy beams favored by civilized warfare. The tungsten penetrator struck the shield at relativistic velocity. For a microsecond, physics held its breath. Then the kinetic energy, equivalent to several nuclear warheads, overwhelmed the shield's energy absorption matrix in a catastrophic cascade failure. The slug punched through the Zephyrian flagship's hull like a needle through silk, its passage creating a column of superheated plasma that gutted the ship from stem to stern. Secondary explosions rippled along the vessel's length as containment systems failed and antimatter reserves detonated. The alien fleet's formation wavered as Kethvar's flagship broke apart in a brilliant fireball. "Impossible," whispered Fleet Commander Thuron, assuming command as his sensors struggled to process what had occurred. "How did such a primitive weapon—" His question was interrupted by another thunderous discharge from the human fleet. Then another. The humans weren't firing energy beams that could be deflected or absorbed. They were throwing relativistic hammers that turned mass into an unstoppable force. Thuron watched in growing horror as his advanced warships, vessels, that had conquered a dozen star systems, were systematically destroyed by what amounted to sophisticated slingshots. The humans had taken the oldest principle of warfare, throwing rocks at your enemy, and scaled it up to cosmic proportions. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. All ships, begin random course changes. But the humans had anticipated this. Their targeting computers, crude by alien standards, had been programmed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of predicting where moving targets would be. Each railgun discharge was calculated not just for current position, but for where the alien ships would be when the projectile arrived. The Altarian heavy cruiser Dominion tried to execute a high G turn, its inertial compensators screaming in protest. The tungsten slug meant for its original position missed, but the second slug, fired to intercept its evasion pattern, struck amidships with devastating effect. Captain Chen watched the alien fleet's formation collapse with professional satisfaction. Comms opened a channel to the surviving vessels. Several alien commanders appeared on her screen, their expressions ranging from shock to outright terror. These beings who had never known defeat were experiencing it for the first time. "Gentlemen," Chen said calmly, "this is your opportunity to withdraw. We came here to establish trade relations and mutual cooperation. Your admiral chose violence. We are prepared to continue this conversation in whatever language you prefer, diplomacy or physics." Fleet Commander Thuron stared at the human captain through his cracked view screen. Half his fleet was debris, destroyed by weapons his people considered primitive. He finally understood the crucial flaw in their assessment. Humans hadn't developed inferior technology. They had developed different technology, optimized for a different kind of warfare entirely. We withdraw," he managed to say. As the remaining hegemony ships limped away, Captain Chen turned to her weapons officer. "Stand down from battle stations. Send a message to Fleet Command. First contact protocols successfully established. Recommend immediate diplomatic overtures to the hegemony leadership." The human fleet had made their point with devastating clarity. In the void between stars, sometimes the oldest solutions were still the most effective. The galactic hegemony had learned to fight with energy and grace, but humans had learned to fight with mass and momentum, turning Isaac Newton into their most deadly ally. The aliens had mocked Earth's navy for its primitive appearance, never realizing that sometimes the most dangerous predator was the one that looked least threatening. They had forgotten that in the cosmos, as on Earth's ancient battlefields, it wasn't always the most advanced weapon that won the day. It was the weapon wielded by those who understood war in its purest, most brutal form. The message spread quickly through hegemony space. The humans had arrived, and they brought with them the kind of warfare their sophisticated civilization had forgotten. Simple, direct, and absolutely devastating.